Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudirayat. Nashtagrayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Tamishtum Ke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtagi Hukam Kuruti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatra Patama Mante Shri Guruntin Tarana Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So today we are going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto. I think you all are able to see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
We are going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 32nd chapter, 28th verse. Jnanamekam parachinerindriye brahma nirgunam avabhatir artharupena grantaya shabdadi dharmina. Jnanamekam parachiner indriyer brahma nirgunam avabhatyartharupena grantaya shabdadi dharmina. Jnanamekam parachinerindriyer brahma nirgunam avabhatyartharupena grantaya shabdadi dharmina. Synonyms, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jnanam, knowledge. Ekam, one. Parachin hai, averse. Indriya, by the senses. Brahma, the supreme absolute truth. Nirgunam, beyond the material modes. Avabhati, appears. Artharupena, in the form of various objects. Brantaya, mistakenly. Shabda adi, sound and so on. Dharmina, endowed with. Translation. Those who are averse to the transcendence realize the supreme absolute truth differently through speculative sense perception, and therefore, because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to them to be relative. Purport. The supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is one, and He is spread everywhere by His impersonal feature. This is clearly expressed in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says, everything that is experienced is but an expansion of my energy. Everything is sustained by Him, but that does not mean that He is in everything. Sense perceptions, such as oral perception of the sound of a drum, visual perception of a beautiful woman, or perception of the delicious taste of a milk preparation by the tongue, all come through different senses and are therefore differently understood. Therefore, sensory knowledge is divided in different categories, although actually everything is one as a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the energies of fire are heat and illumination, and by these two energies, fire can display itself in many varieties or in diversified sense perception. Mayavadi philosophers declare this diversity to be false, but Vaishnava philosophers do not accept the different manifestations as false. They accept them as non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are a display of His diverse energies. The philosophy that the Absolute is true and this creation is false, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, is not accepted by Vaishnava philosophers. The example is given that although all that glitters is not gold, this does not mean that a glittering object is false. For example, an oyster shell appears to be golden. This appearance of golden hue is due only to the perception of the eyes, but that does not mean that the oyster shell is false. Similarly, by seeing the form of the Lord Krishna, one cannot understand what he actually is. But this does not mean that he is false. The form of Krishna has to be understood as it is described in the books of knowledge, such as Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. By our imperfect sense perception, we cannot understand the form of the Lord. We have to acquire knowledge about him. Therefore, it is said here, Jnanam Ekam. Bhagavad Gita confirms that they are fools who, simply upon seeing Krishna, considers him a common man. They do not know the unlimited knowledge, power, and opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Material sense speculation leads to the conclusion that the Supreme is formless. It is because of such mental speculation that the conditioned soul remains in ignorance under the spell of illusory energy. The Supreme Person has to be understood by the transcendental sound vibrated by him in Bhagavad Gita, wherein he says that there is nothing superior to himself. The impersonal Brahman effulgence is resting on his personality. The purified absolute vision of Bhagavad Gita is compared to the river Ganges. Ganges water is so pure that it can purify even the asses and cows. But anyone who, disregarding the pure Ganges, wishes to be purified instead by the filthy water flowing in a drain, cannot be successful. Similarly, one can successfully attain pure knowledge of the Absolute only by hearing from the pure Absolute himself. In this verse, it is clearly said that those who are averse to the Supreme Personality of Godhead speculate with their imperfect senses about the nature of the Absolute Truth. The formless Brahman conception, however, can be received only by oral perception and not by personal experience. Knowledge is therefore acquired by oral reception. It is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Shastra Yonitvat. One has to acquire pure knowledge from the authorized scriptures. So-called speculative arguments about the absolute truth are therefore useless. The actual identity of the living entity is his consciousness, which is always present while the living entity is awake, dreaming, or in deep sleep. Even in deep sleep, he can perceive by consciousness whether he is happy or distressed. Thus, when consciousness is displayed through the medium of the subtle and gross material bodies, it is covered. But when the consciousness is purified in Krishna consciousness, one becomes free from the entanglement of repeated birth and death. When uncontaminated pure knowledge is uncovered from the modes of material nature, the actual identity of the living entity is discovered. He is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The process of uncovering is like this. The rays of sunshine are luminous, and the sun itself is also luminous. In the presence of the sun, the rays illuminate just like the sun. But when the sunshine is covered by the spell of a cloud or by Maya, then darkness, the imperfection of perception, begins. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of the spell of nescience, one has to awaken his spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness in terms of the authorized scriptures. Hare Krishna. What a powerful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chachurramiltamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yutpada Kamalam Shri Guruna Vaishnavancham Cha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganlalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prem Pitaya Te Krishnaya Chaitanya Namine Gaurakrishna He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpati गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मम हरे कृष्णा। So here we see that what Lord Kapil Dev is saying. Those who are versed to the transcendence realize the supreme absolute truth differently through speculative sense perception, and therefore, because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to them to be relative. And Prabhupada, in his verse, in his purport, saying that how everybody is perceiving Lord. So, first of all, Lord cannot be perceived by our imperfect senses. Lord Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat vyakta murtina matastani sarvutani na chaham teshu avasthitaha. So basically, Lord cannot be understood so easily. Lord cannot be understood so easily. And Lord even doesn't let the fools understand him. He also says, Avjananti mama mura manusim tanam asritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all to be. This is the situation of everyone on this material earth. It is very difficult to perceive Lord. It is very difficult to perceive Lord because when even Lord descends, right? When even Lord descends, and the people who see Lord are not able to identify that he is Lord. That is the Lord's potency. Lord covers himself with his Yogmaya potency so that nobody besides his pure devotees can understand that who he is. When Srila Prabhupada went to America and he started preaching about Krishna consciousness and Lord Krishna, so he was telling people that people should come to him where he tells that who is God, where he lives, how he looks like, what is his address, what activity is done by Lord Krishna. All these things only Prabhupada was telling everybody. Then the so-called Sam, who is now His Grace Shyam Sundar Prabhu, he used to tell that Prabhupada used to preach. He used to tell that the Lord Krishna is blue in color. He has long hairs. He always has his flute in his arms. He is always with his consort Radharani. He is dancing with gopis. He is having 16,100 wives. He is living in Golok Vrindavan. So all these details, when these details were being shared with these so-called hippies, what they were resonating it with? They were resonating it with themselves. They were thinking that, oh, the Lord looks like us only. He has long hairs. He is interested in music. He is interested in having multiple affairs. So that's how many hippies were getting attracted to the description of the Lord. They were resonating it with themselves. That's how they were thinking. At the same time, it's not only that these hippies were coming to see Prabhupada or to meet Prabhupada. There were other philosophers who were also coming. There were many philosophers, many intelligent writers who were also visiting Prabhupada, and they were understanding that what Prabhupada is speaking is not just out of the blue moon. They knew that he is referring to various shastras. He's talking from various scriptures, and basis that he is giving all these details. So one of the professors, one of the philosophers who was also a professor in one of the university, he used to come to Prabhupada and he used to listen what Prabhupada was telling about the God's effulgence, God's potencies, God's activities, his powerful opulences and all those things. So when he was hearing all these, he was getting attracted to it. And what he started doing, that when he was going to his college and teaching students, he started teaching them about Lord Krishna. Now, when he was teaching about Lord, he was a philosopher. When he was teaching to the students start complaining. When the students start complaining, the management came to that teacher and asked, "What are you teaching?" He told that he is teaching about God. And he was telling that God is of this color, God wears this type of dress, God lives at so and so place. And when he was so specific, they were just questioning him. How can you be so specific about God? And he was thinking that, oh, why are they saying so? Prabhupada says that God, everything about God is very, very specific. But these people, generally what happens? How people perceive God? So, one who cannot be imagined. And how Mayavadis perceive God? It's an effulgence, it's a light. You cannot imagine about Lord. You cannot imagine about him. You cannot know about him. You cannot understand his activities, what he does. You cannot assess him. You cannot tell where he lives. So something which is not known or cannot be perceived was considered what? As God. So if you are considering God, if you are telling everybody that God is what? He cannot be perceived. You cannot imagine him, how he looks like, what is his address, what are his activities, then it is okay. Then you are talking about God. But if you are talking about how he looks like, where he stays, what he does, what he is engaged in, how he is serving people, how he is serving devotees, he is so merciful. If you are telling all this, then that means you are not talking about God. You are talking about a simple man, a man with great opulences. You are not talking about God, because they can only perceive God as something which though exists, but in an unimaginable form. They cannot imagine about God. They cannot think that how God looks like. They cannot think that what God wears. They cannot think that what God's activities are. They cannot understand how God maintains different relationships. They cannot understand the rasas which God is releasing. So that is the real situation as on date as well. This is how Lord is perceived. Nobody believes what is there in Shastras, and that is why Prabhupada is writing here that it is very, very difficult to perceive Lord by our imperfect senses. One of the 4 defects which every human being is having is imperfect senses. So one cannot perceive Lord by his imperfect senses. And that's why Prabhupada is writing that if one has to understand who Krishna is, what is his form, how he looks like, then one should refer books like Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda And the Vigraha, Radha Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. That is the definition of Lord Krishna. In first, I think 11 or 13 verses of Brahma Samhita, it is clearly explained by, I'm talking of chapter 5, verse 1, chapter 5, which was found by Lord Chaitanya when when he visited South India. So in that trip only, he found this. He didn't found entire Brahma Samhita. He just found this Brahma Samhita, and in chapter 5, he got this explanation, and from there he got this copy of Brahma Samhita, which we are nowadays referring to. That explains very clearly about the opulences of Lord. How the Lord is there, how the expansion took place, where he stays, how effulgent that place is, what are the beauty of that place. So all that is clearly explained in Brahma Samhita. So it tells that he is an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. And that is what is being referred here as Jnanam Ekam. So this knowledge can only be obtained. How? It can only be obtained through three mediums, right? Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru. So these are the only ways by which one can understand Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada is writing, they do not know the unlimited knowledge, power, and opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is about the common man. Material sense speculation leads to the conclusion that Supreme is formless. It is because of such mental speculation that conditioned soul remains in ignorance under the spell of illusory energy, which is what Lord is saying in Bhagavad Gita. Avjananti mama moda. They cannot know me. Avajananti, they cannot know me. Who are foolish. Manusam tanum asritam. When Lord comes in the form of a human body. So when Lord descends in human form, he performs various activities. He performs all types of, he performs human activities. He performed superhuman activities as well. Right? So even when Lord Krishna descended, he performed so many activities which were normal like any human being performing activities. What were those activities? Can we just recall some of the activities which Lord was doing, which every human being does? Can we say something? We know that the Lord performed.
That God was crying. God was crying like innocently.
Pardon, Mataji?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Are you able to hear me, Prabhuji? Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
yes,
God was crying like a small baby. Was crying.
Okay, he was crying. Very good. What else? He was crying. Yes. Children eat clay, right? He ate clay.
He's telling lies.
He was telling lies. He was stealing butter.
Telling lies.
He was going and playing with the cowherd boys.
Yes.
He
doing
was
naughty things.
Eating the left outs of the cowherd boys, even snatching food from them. So what about these activities? These are such generic activities which any children they do these activities. How can anyone perceive him as a Lord? And that happened with Brahmaji also. That Brahma Vimohan Leela happened just because of that, because Brahma couldn't perceive that child that he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is how when Lord descends, he performs such activities that he even confuses everyone. The demigods even gets confused. Right? He was a chariot, he was acting as a chariot driver. Not only chariot driver, in war, it is the first person who is to be attacked is the chariot driver, so that he loses control of the chariot, and so that the main person on the chariot, the king or whosoever they are fighting with, can be killed. Right? So he was the first to be attacked, and he was even bleeding. It is written in the Shastras that Krishna was facing the arrows and he was bleeding even. How can one perceive that a Lord can bleed even, or somebody can throw arrows at the Lord? So anybody who is a mundane person, or who doesn't have perception, this knowledge about the Lord, they will say, no, he was just an ordinary person. How can this happen? Lord is so powerful. Nobody can throw arrows at Lord, or Lord, how can Lord start bleeding? He is so powerful in himself that he will attack and he will finish everything. They were not only this. Lord Krishna, when Lord Yudhishthira performed this Rajsuya, he served as a servant, cleaning the shoes of the people. How can Lord serve as that person? How can Lord just clean the shoes of the guests which are coming there? So Lord was performing all these activities in order to so there are many things. People say that he was showing his humility. He was leading by his example. He was telling people that these are the karmas which one has to perform, right? All those things. But even not only this, he was performing superhuman activities as well. So we know all superhuman activities. He appeared as soon as he was going to born. He appeared as a 400 in Lord Narayan form, and then he entered into the womb of Lord Devaki. Then every single instance, like killing of Putana, killing of so many demons, all these were lifting of Govardhan hill. And then there are many activities Lord Krishna does which were superhuman activities. So Lord was exhibiting all type of activities, and even after exhibiting such activities, what is happening? He bewildered everybody by his Yogamaya potency, that people were not able to understand him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what to say of people like us? If Lord comes in front, will we be able to recognize him? Obviously not, right? So it is very important that we should create, or we should learn about him in order to perceive Lord, in order to get attracted to Lord, so that we can see God, or we can understand God, who God is. Without that, it is very difficult that we get to know who God is. Prabhupada is saying in his verses later, oral reception, right? Prabhupada has used this word. I'm just looking for that. Before that, Prabhupada writes, in this verse, it is clearly said that those who are averse to the Supreme Personality of Godhead speculate with their imperfect senses about the nature of the absolute truth. The formless Brahman conception, however, can be received only by oral reception and not by personal experience. What does this oral receptions mean? What does this oral reception means? Sabdadi dharmina. So this oral reception is of prime importance here, because Lord can only be perceived by what? By hearing. We can only understand the Lord by hearing. You know, when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by Shringi that he is going to die in 7 days by the bite of the snake, Takshak. What did Parikshit Maharaj did? Parikshit Maharaj left the kingdom immediately and went to the banks of Ganges, and there he met Sukadeva Goswami, from whom he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Parikshit Maharaj is called as Shravana Acharya. He is called as the Acharya of hearing, because he was the one who heard Srimad Bhagavatam for continuously 7 days and 7 nights without eating or drinking anything. Can we think of that situation? Never, right? So he was hearing so attentively that on every time we see that he was raising questions, he was just asking, wherever he was having any single doubt, he was asking Sukadeva Goswami to explain things in detail. Acharyas say that when it was the 4th day, by which Sukadeva Goswami has spoken about various incarnations of Lord Krishna. And now when Lord Krishna, on the 4th day, Sukadeva Goswami started telling about Lord Krishna himself, about his pastimes and all. So as soon as he was speaking about the pastime of Putana, Putana Vad, as soon as Parikshit Maharaj heard that, he was so attentive that he immediately started saying, he recited 2 verses which are from 10th canto, 7th chapter, 1st and 2nd verse, which are very, very important and is a significant idea of how attentive we should hear. Because here, after 3, it was the 4th day, no water, nothing to eat, just attentively hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. We even start looking our watches, even if we are sitting there and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita for an hour. 1 hour has passed, Prabhuji has not finished. And see the attentiveness of Parikshit Maharaj. Even after 3 complete days and the 4th day progressing, he was so attentive. And he says, Sri Rajo Vach, Yena avatareena Bhagavan Harishwaraha Karoti Karamyani Manogyani Chana Prabhu. So what he is saying, Yena avatareena. Sri Rajo Vach, Parikshit Maharaj is saying that by this time, what Sukadeva Goswami has done, Yena avatareena, you have told about different varieties of incarnations of Lord. Now, Bhagavan Hari Ishwara, you have told about different incarnations of the Supreme Personality of God. And what he is saying, that now you are going to tell about Bhagavan Hari. Karoti Karna Ramyani. Karna Ramyani means pleasing to hear. It is very, very pleasing to hear about the Lord and his incarnations. And now, as you are going to tell about Lord, Mano Gyani Chana Prabhu. Now, as you are going to tell about the Lord, what he is asking, that since these pastimes are very, very pleasing to my ear, you should tell all these in great details. And he says to Sukadeva Goswami, he is expressing this for our benefit. He is telling that there are 6 different advantages of hearing. There are 6 different advantages which he is pointing out from the 2nd shloka, which says, Yashanavato apaiti aratir vitrishna sattvam cha suddhayati achirena pumshaha bhaktir harao tatpuruse cha sakyam tadeva haram vadamanyase chet. Yashanavato, by hearing what? By hearing the beautiful pastimes, the names, the glories, the pastimes of Supreme Personality of Godhead. What happens? Apaiti aratir. What goes away? What goes away? Apaiti aratir. Aratir means, ratir is your attraction, ruchi. Rati is attraction towards anything. Aratir means when we are not attracted. So initially what is happening? we are not attracted towards Krishna. So that unattraction which is there in hearing the pastimes, in hearing the names, form, glories, and pastimes of Lord Krishna, which is existing in any materialistic person, what happens? That thing, that arati, unattractiveness goes away. So that is the first benefit of hearing about Lord Krishna. Arati. Arati goes away. And what it gets converted into? Rati. You get attracted towards Krishna by hearing about him. And he is saying what other thing goes away is with Trishna. So there is Trishna, there is envy, there is dirtiness in our mind. With Trishna, matlab, which is filled. So when you are filled with lot of envy, such dirty things in mind, such what you can say, anxieties and all those things. When you are filled with all those things, and when you hear about Lord Krishna, that Vitrishna also goes away. So what happens when you are listening about the name, fame, glories of Lord Krishna? Your arati goes away. You get attracted towards Krishna. Your Trishna goes away. And when your Trishna goes away, what happens? That he is saying in the second sentence, Sattvam. So you get established in what? In Satoguna. You come into mode of goodness. You establish yourself in Sattva. So that is what is happening. See the effect of hearing. This effect of hearing is taking us to attraction towards Lord Krishna. Our mind, which is full of anxiety, depression, envy, greed, anger, all this is going away, because these are the elements of mode of passion, mode of ignorance, not mode of goodness. So as soon as this goes away, what happens? Automatically the influence of mode of passion and mode of ignorance goes away. And what happens? You get settled into sattva, mode of goodness. And then what it says? Sattvam cha suddhyati. Suddhyati means you get purified. Our mind gets purified. Suddhyati achirena pumsaha. So very soon, using achirena, without any delay. When you are hearing about the name, fame, and pastimes of and glories of Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, very soon what will happen? You will get attracted towards him. You will get out of your Trishna, your anxiety, your envy, all these things will go away. The influence of mode of passion, mode of ignorance will go away. You will be settling down in mode of goodness, where you will get purified, your minds get purified very soon. And what is the next step? What happens beyond that? Still, the fifth thing is Sattvam cha suddhyati achirena pumsa bhaktir harau. Hari bhakti. You get the devotional attraction towards God, and therefore you enter into devotional attachment and you start serving God. Bhakti harau. Tat puruse cha sakhyam. And when you are doing this, how you can do this? You develop an intimacy or relationship with Tat Puruse cha Sakyam. Puruse means here Vaishnavas. You establish relationship with the Vaishnavas. Because in their association only you can hear about the name, fame, glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you establish the relationship with whom? You establish the relationship with the Vaishnavas. So when you are establishing the relationship with the Vaishnavas, what is happening? That asanga tyag automatically happens. So these are the 6 benefits which arises when you are hearing about Lord Shri Krishna. So that is what here Parikshit Maharaj is saying about the importance of hearing about the Lord. And Prabhupada is mentioning here that how can Lord be understood? He can only be understood by oral reception and not by personal experience. Knowledge is therefore acquired by oral reception. It is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Shastra Yonitvat. One has to acquire pure knowledge from the authorized scriptures, from the authorized or bona fide spiritual master. You cannot attain anything, any knowledge on your own because you have imperfect senses. The pastime of Samantwak Jal tells very clearly that, see, Lord has performed various activities. Here is one of the other activity, which is superhuman activity. And here we know that what happened, that Lord was in Dwaraka. Lord Krishna was in Dwaraka, and at that time, Satyajit got one of the jewels, which was called Samantak jewel. It's a paras money. Not only paras money, it is type of money which is so effulgent that one who wears it, it appears as if somebody like the sun god has appeared. So when Satyajit got that Samantak jewel from sun god, he thought that he should show his opulence to the people of Dwaraka and also to Krishna. So as soon as he was entering Dwaraka, what was happening? The people in Dwaraka were thinking that, oh, see our Lord Krishna. They never recognized Krishna as the Lord, but they were saying, see, our king is so great that even the demigods like sun god is coming to meet him. So they went to Lord Krishna and they told that sun god is here to meet you. And Lord Krishna knew everything. So he smiled. He said, no, he is not sun god. So when Satyajit met Lord Krishna said that, see, what you should do actually, because everything which is the best of the best thing should be offered to whom? To the king of that country, of that nation. So he said that you should give this Samantak jewel to King Ugrasen. Ugrasen was the king of the earth at that time. Now, when Satyajit heard that, he overlooked, he denied. So this was the aparad which Satyajit did there. He didn't understood the real essence of, because he never recognized Lord Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. For him, he was a normal man. So he overlooked and he didn't took care what Lord Krishna said. And because of this offense, what happened? That Satyajit's younger brother, Prasenjit, took that jewel from him. He wore and he went towards the forest. When he went to the forest, he was killed by a lion. When he was killed by a lion, it is said that that lion was even killed by a person called Raksha. Now, that jewel was taken by Raksha, and that Raksha was none other than Jamban. Jamban, the monkey who was there, who served Lord Ram in Ramayana, in Treta Yuga. Now, Satyajit started blaming. He was defaming Lord Krishna that since Krishna wanted that jewel, he must have certainly killed Prasenjit. So that's why Prasenjit never came back, and that jewel is also not here. And when Lord Krishna heard this, he didn't wanted that defame to be there. So he went to find Prasenjit, and while he went to the forest, he found the dead body of Prasenjit. And then when he moved forward, he found the dead body of the lion also. And tracking further, he went to a cave. And when he entered that cave, he saw that a small boy was playing with that jewel as a toy. So he just called, he was trying to take the jewel back from that boy. But seeing this, Jamvant, who was there, he stopped him and thinking, he couldn't understand that he is none other than his Lord itself. He started fighting with him. How many days that fighting went? Anybody knows? How many days did Jamvan fought with Lord Krishna? They fought continuously for 28 days. After fighting so long for 28 days, after getting enough beating from Lord Krishna, Jamvan could understand that this person is not somebody's simple person. He is none other than my Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ram. And then he started praising that you are not normal, you are Lord Ram. I could now recognize. So even a devotee, a pure devotee like Jamvan, couldn't recognize Lord when he was standing in front of him. So what to talk about of people like us? How can we recognize? Acharyas say that it is just by the beatings which he suffered, Jamvan suffered from Lord Krishna, he could remember that who he is. Similarly, when our mind and our senses are being beaten, challenged by our Guru, by the Shastras, by the Vaishnavas, by the Sadhu Sangha, then only we will be in a position to realize, to sense that who is God. So it is very, very important for us to hear what Prabhupada is saying, that we need to obtain this knowledge, and this knowledge can only be obtained by oral reception. It is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Shastra Yonitvata. One is to acquire pure knowledge from the authorized scriptures. Can we understand his authorized scriptures? Obviously not. It is by mercy of Srila Prabhupada that we are reading these purports and trying to understand what is hidden within these authorized scriptures. So-called speculative arguments about the absolute truth are therefore useless. The actual identity of living entity is his consciousness, which is always present while the living entity is awake, dream, or in deep sleep. Thus, when consciousness is displayed to the medium of subtle and gross material body, it is covered, and when the consciousness is purified. So, how is this getting purified? We just heard that shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam, when Parikshit Maharaj is saying that by hearing what is happening, Suddhayati, this consciousness is getting purified. So when our consciousness is getting purified, means we are getting Krishna conscious. Then only what happens? One becomes free from the entanglement of repeated birth and death. So by hearing about the Lord's name, fame, and pastimes, what happens? That we get above the covering of the modes of material nature, and we could understand that what is our true nature. Jivera Swarupa Hoye Shnera Nitya Das. We are the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The process of, Prabhupada is writing here, the process of uncovering is like this. The rays of sunshine are luminous, and the sun itself is also luminous. In the presence of sun, the rays illuminate just like the sun. And when the sunshine is covered by a spell of cloud or by Maya, then darkness, the imperfection of perception begins. Therefore, to get out of entanglement of the spell of this science, one has to awaken his spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness in terms of authorized scriptures. Hare Krishna. So I'll stop here. If there's anything, any questions, any doubts, we can just talk about that. Hare Krishna, Hare Prabhu, then prompts.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I just joined you. Literally 2 minutes before.
So just to bless me, that I know that, Prabhu. Thank you.
Haribol.
Very good.
I could get only two sentences or three from yours. Haribol.
Looking for your blessings, Prabhu. That's it.
Haribol. Blessings are there. You are already blessed, and the desire to take class itself is a blessing. You see, when you attract so much blessing from the Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, Acharyas, that it's a wonderful.
Vaishnavas like you, Srila Prabhupada, and our great Sukkar Prabhu, because he is so merciful that he engages us in service. Just because of his blessings.
A desire to serve and preach in the mission is a great effort. So you have already attracted that blessing. So it's good. Haribol, Haribol. I'm sure the class has been very good. And the
Sukkar Prabhu also. Haribol.
Sorry, I missed your class. Sorry, Prabhu. Very sorry.
No problem, Prabhu. No problem. You joined at the right time to bless me.
Recording.
Haribol.
Wonderful. Bhaiya, Anil Bhaiya, Hare Krishna.
Haribol, I just came 2 minutes before. 1 minute. 2
Yay.
minutes. Haribol.
Because without seeing my brothers, younger brother and elder brother, I cannot sleep. I'm the Majli in between.
Haribol.
So his class, I know Prabhu's class will be fantastic because he's completely filled with Krishna Prem.
Yeah, he's so much committed. So many classes I heard of his. Even the description of how,
powerful.
Yes,
and
yes.
he just say, I don't know anything. He's a chalia fella. He's chalia.
I don't know anything. I just
Tells lies.
Correct.
Prabhu, you are going back 100%. There's no doubt. Yad gatvan and never tante tad dhama paramam mama. Bas.
No. Haribol.
Yes,
So how many had come today? Sweta Mataji, any question? Seema Gupta Mataji. V.S. Narayan Prabhu.
No question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Hare Krishna. Seema Mataji.
Prabhuji, please, Ajit Prabhuji, please share the link of YouTube. I don't have that. I'll subscribe now so that we can listen again. It was nice lecture, very nice, like very informative, and that part I like very much. The importance of listening Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes.
Jai.
We are lacking in that much concentration. Even though, to be very honest, while listening, I do some household work also, because that time is like 7:30 here, so it's dinner time. Someone want this, and the moment I start listening this, someone coming, then my husband or children that I'm hungry. So,
Samsara Sagare Magna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Mataji, it's not because of you, it's because of the speaker as well. When you hear a pure devotee, it is by his influence only you are able to hear.
Yes.
So it is
but
your mistake.
Prabhuji, at least some purification is happening now.
That is true.
It's not like this that we are not 100% pure, but like we are towards that. At least you people are doing so much.
Prabhu's voice is a spiritual voice. Now, his voice only touch you. That way enough. That's enough.
Yes,
the Goloka voice.
Yes, Prabhu. Sure, 100% listening this now. whoever speakers are coming, their voice is different. That's why we like daily we want to listen again. Daily we are logging in and all.
Mataji also very sincere. Every day she comes. Only one day I didn't see. बीच में एक दिन Mataji नहीं आई. Otherwise,
No,
always-
Prabhuji, these days these physical satsangs are also started, na? They here. So I am going there.
offline.
Ha, offline. That's Saturday here, every Saturday. And if some devotee keep in their home, that time also I'm going. That time is. Then I don't log in.
अभी तो आपको तो log in हो. You can always take it from the Prabhu has created a YouTube, no? तो आपको रोज मिलेगा. But
Yes,
physically, if you come on online, better because ऐसे बाद में सुनने को तो उतना इंटरेस्ट नहीं आएगा. प्रभु का
बाद में
चेहरा
सुनो
देख के.
तो फिर ऐसे भी होता है कि हाँ सुन लेंगे, फिर नहीं होता है.
लेकिन प्रभु के साथ में रहेगा तो और डाउट क्लियर होएगा, बहुत कुछ होएगा.
हाँ, यस, वो सही है एकदम.
प्रभु अभी भक्ति वैभव कर रहे हैं, अभी भक्ति वेदांता करना है उनको, सब कुछ. प्रभु इतने
Yes.
अच्छे बच्चे हैं, मैं इनसे बहुत प्यार करता हूँ. मेरा छोटा भैया.
यस प्रभु जी, हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी.
अभी आपका भी दीक्षा के लिए देखना है, वीएस प्रभु का दीक्षा के लिए सोचना है. अभी टाइम हो रहा है, टाइम की बात है. तुलसी माता जी also.
I filled form प्रभु जी, aspiration form I filled. I
जय, वेरी गुड माता जी.
submitted.
सुन के बहुत खुशी हो गया. अभी वीएस प्रभु का भी फिलअप करने का है.
Yes.
वो मेरा इतने बेस्ट फ्रेंड है क्लास का. कोई भी दिन सुबह चैंटिंग नहीं छोड़ता, रात को ये दोनों आ जाता है कैसे भी. उनका नाम भी कन्नन है, का नाम भी नारायणन है और घर में कन्नन है.
Nowadays, morning, I'm not joining there in the class, but I'm hearing that 16 rounds of Prabhupada I'm putting and doing sometimes. I'm not coming to the class.
But Prabhu, you have to chant. If you hear, no, if you don't eat chapati, पेट भरेगा नहीं. चपाती देखेगा तो you will chant, Prabhu, please. Prabhupada, you can listen and chant, but chant. Well, you're busy in the morning.
Miscellaneous sometimes, something.
So make a habit, Prabhu, because if you don't come, no, Prabhupada half day would not listen also. So that time you keep it for Padmini Mata Group, don't leave that, Prabhu. फिर chanting छूट जाएगा. Then you say, while sleeping, I will listen. 10 मिनट सुन के सो जाएगा बस. वो होएगा नहीं. जब तक आप हाथ में माला पकड़ के बैठते हो तब तक प्लीज कम प्रभु. You will also become like Kiran Jambekar. निकल गया भी तो पूरा ही निकल गया complete. So you don't lose it. So that morning is very important. Please come, Prabhu. Please, I beg you, please come, Prabhu. Don't just listen, Prabhupada. मैं सुन लेता हूँ, मैं रसगुल्ला देख लेता हूँ. खाएगा तो मजा आएगा ना, देख लेगा तो. Thank you, Prabhu. हरे कृष्णा प्रभु. अजीत प्रभु. इसका इस रिकॉर्डिंग मुझे भेजेगा प्रभु लिंक. आपका म्यूट है.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Yes, I have already posted that on our WhatsApp group. It is already there now.
Okay, in the blissful में.
Yes, Srivas Angan, Prabhu, Srivas Angan.
Oh, okay. आज भेजा.
अभी जस्ट अभी का आप बोल रहे हो ना, भेज दिया.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च गणा पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.
वैष्णवंत की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद जय समय प्रभुपाद.
His Grace अजीत गर्ग प्रभु की जय हो.
Jai.
गौरंगा
नित्यानंदा
नित्यानंदा गौरंगा
नित्यानंदा
जय श्री राधे श्याम.
सबको मिले नंद बंदा.
गिरी गोवर्धन लाल की जय हो. थैंक यू.